Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video where we'll be exploring some fascinating recent scientific research on a small but remarkable primate species, the Geoffroy's tamarin. I'm excited to take you on a journey through several interesting studies that have expanded our understanding of these curious little monkeys. For those who may not be familiar, Geoffroy's tamarins are small New World monkeys native to Panama and Colombia. With their distinctive white mohawk-like crest and reddish nape, they're quite the striking animals. But beyond just their appearance, researchers have been uncovering all sorts of intriguing information about their behavior, ecology, and conservation needs. In today's video, we'll be diving into several key areas of research on Geoffroy's tamarins. Their social behavior and group dynamics. Their unique reproductive strategies. Their diet and foraging patterns. How they communicate and interact. The impacts of habitat fragmentation. And efforts to conserve this near-threatened species. Now, you might be wondering, why focus a whole video on this one specific monkey? Well, Geoffroy's tamarins offer a fascinating case study in primate behavior and ecology. As one of the smallest monkey species, living in an area facing rapid habitat loss, they face some unique challenges. By studying them, researchers gain insights that can be applied more broadly to primate conservation. Additionally, as our closest living relatives, primates like the Geoffroy's tamarin can teach us a lot about the evolution of social behavior, intelligence, and communication. Their cooperative breeding system is particularly intriguing from an evolutionary perspective. So whether you're a primatology enthusiast, conservation advocate, or just someone curious to learn more about the natural world, I think you'll find a lot to enjoy in today's deep dive on Geoffroy's tamarin research. Before we jump in, I want to note that while this video synthesizes findings from multiple scientific studies, I won't be calling out specific papers or researchers. My goal is to present an accessible overview of the current state of knowledge, rather than a formal literature review. For those interested in exploring further, I encourage you to check out some of the excellent peer-reviewed research on this species. Alright, let's get started by looking at the social lives of Geoffroy's tamarins. Part 1. Social behavior and group dynamics. Geoffroy's tamarins, like many primate species, live in complex social groups. But the structure and dynamics of these groups are quite unique. Recent research has revealed fascinating insights into how Geoffroy's tamarin societies function, from leadership roles to cooperative behaviors. Let's explore what scientists have discovered about the social lives of these diminutive monkeys. Geoffroy's tamarins typically live in groups ranging from 3 to 9 individuals, though larger groups of up to 13 have been observed in some areas. These groups usually consist of a breeding pair, their offspring from previous years, and sometimes unrelated adults. One of the most interesting aspects of Geoffroy's tamarin social structure is the presence of a clear dominance hierarchy. At the top of this hierarchy is the breeding female. She exerts control over the group through various behaviors, including aggressive displays and scent marking. This female dominance is somewhat unusual among primates and has intrigued researchers. The breeding male also holds a high-ranking position, but interestingly, he's not always the most dominant male in the group. In some cases, researchers have observed older sons or unrelated males challenging the breeding male for dominance. This can lead to some complex social dynamics within the group. Despite these occasional conflicts, Geoffroy's tamarin groups are generally highly cooperative. This is especially evident in their approach to infant care. When a breeding female gives birth, usually to twins, the entire group pitches in to help raise the infants. This includes not just the father, but older siblings and sometimes unrelated group members as well. This cooperative breeding system is quite rare among primates and has been a major focus of research. Scientists have found that infant carrying duties are shared among all adult and subadult group members, regardless of sex. However, the breeding male tends to do the majority of the carrying, especially in the first few weeks after birth. Why such extensive alloparental care from individuals other than the parents? Researchers believe it offers several advantages. 1. It reduces the energetic burden on the mother, allowing her to recover more quickly and potentially reproduce again sooner. 2. It provides valuable parenting experience for younger group members, preparing them for future reproduction. 3. It may increase infant survival rates by ensuring constant care and protection. Another interesting aspect of Geoffroy's tamarin social behavior is their territorial nature. Groups defend well-defined territories, which typically range from 7 to 10 hectares in size. They use a combination of vocalizations, scent marking, and even physical displays to ward off neighboring groups. Researchers studying intergroup interactions have observed some fascinating behaviors. When two groups meet at territory boundaries, they often engage in what's known as vocal battles. These involve coordinated calling by all group members, creating an impressive auditory display. Physical confrontations are relatively rare, but can occur if one group attempts to encroach on another's territory. Within their territories, Geoffroy's Tamarins show clear preferences for certain areas. They tend to favor locations with dense vegetation and good visibility, which provide both food resources and protection from predators. Interestingly, researchers have found that groups will adjust their territory use based on seasonal changes in food availability. One particularly intriguing find has been the role of sentinel behavior in Geoffroy's Tamarin groups. Individuals will often take turns acting as lookouts, perching in elevated positions to watch for potential threats. When a sentinel detects a predator or other danger, they give a specific alarm call to alert the rest of the group. This cooperative vigilance likely plays a crucial role in group survival. The social bonds within Geoffroy's Tamarin groups appear to be quite strong. Researchers have observed frequent grooming sessions between group members, which serve both a hygienic function and help reinforce social relationships. Play behavior is also common, especially among younger individuals, and may help develop important social and motor skills. In summary, recent research has painted a picture of Geoffroy's Tamarin social life as complex, cooperative, and highly adapted to their environment. From their unique dominance hierarchies to their extensive alloparental care, these small primates display a range of fascinating social behaviors. Understanding these dynamics not only sheds light on Geoffroy's Tamarin ecology, but also provides valuable insights into the evolution of social behavior in primates more broadly. Part 2. Reproductive Strategies. The reproductive strategies of Geoffroy's Tamarins are both unique and intriguing. Recent research has uncovered a wealth of information about how these small primates approach mating, birth, and infant care. Let's delve into the fascinating world of Geoffroy's Tamarin reproduction and explore what makes their approach so special. One of the most striking aspects of Geoffroy's Tamarin reproduction is their tendency to give birth to twins. In fact, twin births occur in about 80% of pregnancies, with single births and triplets making up the remaining 20%. This high twinning rate is quite unusual among primates and has been a subject of much scientific interest. Researchers believe that the prevalence of twin births is an evolutionary adaptation to the high infant mortality rates faced by small-bodied primates like Geoffroy's Tamarins. By producing two offspring at once, the chances of at least one surviving to adulthood are increased. However, this strategy comes with significant energetic costs for the mother. This is where the cooperative breeding system we discussed earlier comes into play. The extensive alloparental care provided by group members helps offset the high energetic demands of carrying and nursing twins. Without this support, it's unlikely that Geoffroy's Tamarin mothers could successfully rear two infants at once. The breeding season for Geoffroy's Tamarins typically runs from January to June, with peaks in birth rates usually occurring in April and May. However, they are capable of breeding year-round if conditions are favorable. Females have a gestation period of about 145 days, which is relatively long for such a small primate. One fascinating aspect of Geoffroy's Tamarin reproduction is the occurrence of delayed implantation. After fertilization, the embryo doesn't immediately implant in the uterus. Instead, it remains dormant for a period of time before implantation occurs. This allows the female to time births to coincide with optimal environmental conditions, such as peak food availability. Another interesting feature of Geoffroy's Tamarin reproduction is the suppression of ovulation in subordinate females. In a typical group, only the dominant female breeds. Her presence, along with the stress of subordinate status, appears to inhibit ovulation in other adult females in the group. This reproductive suppression helps maintain the social stability of the group and ensures that resources are focused on the offspring of the dominant pair. However, this system isn't always perfect. Researchers have observed cases of subordinate females becoming pregnant, particularly in larger groups or when the dominant female is weakened or absent. These situations can lead to intense social conflict, sometimes resulting in infanticide or expulsion of the subordinate female from the group. When it comes to mating behavior, Geoffroy's Tamarins display some interesting patterns. While they're generally considered monogamous, with a single breeding pair per group, cases of polygyny, one male mating with multiple females, and even polyandry, one female mating with multiple males, have been observed. Courtship behaviors in Geoffroy's tamarins involve a series of visual and olfactory signals. Males will often perform elaborate displays, including head shaking, tail lashing, and scent marking. Females signal their receptivity through changes in behavior and scent production. Interestingly, researchers have found that females are more likely to initiate mating encounters than males. Once pregnancy is established, the entire group's behavior begins to change in preparation for the new arrivals. The pregnant female's abdomen becomes noticeably swollen about 10 to 14 days before birth. During this time, other group members, particularly the breeding male, become increasingly attentive to her. Birth typically occurs at night or in the early morning hours. The mother gives birth while hanging from a branch, with the infants instinctively clinging to her fur immediately after birth. Within hours, other group members, especially the father, begin to take turns carrying the infants. Newborn Geoffroy's tamarins are remarkably well developed. They're born fully furred, with their eyes open, and are capable of clinging tightly to their carriers from day one. This precocial development is crucial for their survival, given the arboreal lifestyle of the species. Infant Geoffroy's tamarins nurse frequently in their first few weeks of life, but they begin to sample solid food as early as 4 to 5 weeks old. By about 10 to 12 weeks, they're largely weaned, though they may continue to nurse occasionally for comfort. This relatively rapid development is another adaptation to the energetic demands of raising twins. One particularly interesting finding from recent research is the role of paternal pheromones in infant development. Studies have shown that exposure to the scent of the father can accelerate sexual maturation in young Geoffroy's tamarins, particularly males. This suggests a complex interplay between social environment and physiological development. Sexual maturity in Geoffroy's tamarins is reached at around 18 months of age. However, most individuals don't breed until they're at least 2 to 3 years old, and many never reproduce in their natal groups. Instead, they may disperse to join other groups or attempt to establish new territories. The reproductive lifespan of Geoffroy's tamarins is relatively long for their size. Females can continue to reproduce into their teens, though fertility begins to decline after about 8 to 10 years. Males can remain reproductively active even longer. This extended reproductive period, combined with their ability to produce multiple offspring per pregnancy, allows Geoffroy's tamarins to maintain stable populations despite relatively high mortality rates. In conclusion, the reproductive strategies of Geoffroy's tamarins are a fascinating blend of physiological adaptations and social behaviors. From their high twinning rates to their cooperative breeding system, these small primates have evolved a unique approach to reproduction that maximizes their chances of success in their challenging forest environments. Understanding these strategies not only provides insights into Geoffroy's tamarin biology, but also offers valuable perspectives on the evolution of reproductive systems in primates more broadly. Part 3. Diet and foraging patterns. Understanding what an animal eats and how it finds its food is crucial to comprehending its ecology and behavior. In the case of Geoffroy's tamarins, recent research has revealed a diverse and adaptable diet, along with some fascinating foraging strategies. Let's explore what scientists have discovered about the feeding habits of these small but resourceful primates. Geoffroy's tamarins are omnivores with a remarkably diverse diet. Their menu includes a wide variety of items. 1. Fruits. A major component of their diet, especially ripe, soft fruits. 2. Insects. An important source of protein, particularly during certain seasons. 3. Plant exudates, saps, gums, and resins from trees and vines. 4. Small vertebrates. Occasionally, they'll eat lizards, frogs, and even small birds. 5. Flowers and nectar. Consumed when available, providing both nutrients and moisture. 6. Fungi. Mushrooms are eaten when encountered, though they're not a primary food source. This dietary diversity allows Geoffroy's tamarins to adapt to seasonal changes in food availability and helps them meet their nutritional needs in varying environmental conditions. One of the most interesting aspects of Geoffroy's tamarin feeding behavior is their consumption of plant exudates. Unlike some other tamarin species, Geoffroy's tamarins don't have specialized dentition for gouging tree bark to access sap. Instead, they opportunistically feed on naturally occurring sap flows or take advantage of holes made by other animals. Researchers have found that exudates can make up a significant portion of their diet, especially during times when fruit is scarce. This ability to exploit a food source that many other primates can't access gives Geoffroy's tamarins a competitive advantage in their forest habitats. When it comes to foraging patterns, Geoffroy's tamarins display some fascinating behaviors. They typically spend a large portion of their day searching for food, often covering significant distances within their territory. Research has shown that an average group might travel over 1,500 meters per day while foraging. Interestingly, Geoffroy's tamarins seem to have excellent spatial memory. Studies have shown that they can remember the locations of productive feeding sites and will return to these spots regularly. This ability allows them to forage more efficiently, especially for patchily distributed resources like fruiting trees. Another intriguing aspect of their foraging behavior is their tendency to form temporary associations with other species. Researchers have observed Geoffroy's tamarins foraging alongside birds, particularly certain species of flycatchers. These mixed species foraging parties can be mutually beneficial. 1. The tamarins benefit from the bird's ability to flush out insects. 2. The birds benefit from the tamarins' movement through the vegetation, which can dislodge hidden insects. 3. Both species gain added vigilance against predators. This type of interspecies cooperation is relatively rare and provides fascinating insights into the complex ecological relationships in tropical forests. Geoffroy's tamarins also display interesting temporal patterns in their foraging behavior. They're most active in the early morning and late afternoon, with a period of rest during the hottest part of the day. This bimodal activity pattern is likely an adaptation to avoid predators and regulate body temperature. When it comes to finding food, Geoffroy's tamarins rely heavily on their keen senses, particularly vision and smell. Their color vision, which is more developed than in many other New World monkeys, allows them to easily spot ripe fruits among the foliage. Their acute sense of smell helps them locate insect prey and detect the presence of plant exudates. Interestingly, research has shown that Geoffroy's tamarins adjust their foraging strategies based on group size. Larger groups tend to spend more time feeding on widely dispersed resources like insects, while smaller groups focus more on patchy but abundant resources like fruiting trees. This flexibility allows them to optimize their foraging efficiency under different social conditions. One particularly fascinating aspect of Geoffroy's tamarin feeding behavior is their role as seed dispersers. As they move through their territory consuming fruits, they disperse the seeds through their feces. Studies have shown that seeds that pass through a tamarin's digestive system often have higher germination rates than those that fall directly from the tree. This seed dispersal service is crucial for forest regeneration and maintenance of biodiversity. Some plant species have even evolved fruits specifically adapted for tamarin consumption, highlighting the close ecological relationships between these primates and their forest habitats. Recent research has also revealed some interesting nutritional adaptations in Geoffroy's tamarins. Despite their small size, they have relatively low protein requirements compared to many other primates. This is likely an adaptation to their fruit-heavy diet, which is generally low in protein. However, they do have high energy requirements relative to their body size, likely due to their active arboreal lifestyle. To meet these energy needs, they've developed efficient digestive systems capable of rapidly processing large quantities of fruit. Another interesting finding is the role of secondary compounds in the Geoffroy's tamarin diet. Many of the plants they consume contain toxic or hard-to-digest compounds. Rather than avoiding these plants entirely, tamarins have evolved strategies to deal with these compounds. 1. They often eat small amounts of many different food types, which helps prevent the buildup of any single toxin. 2. They've developed specialized gut bacteria that can help break down some of these compounds. 3. They sometimes consume clay or other minerals, which may help neutralize plant toxins. These adaptations allow Geoffroy's tamarins to exploit food sources that many other animals can't, giving them a competitive edge in their forest habitats. Seasonality plays a crucial role in Geoffroy's tamarin foraging patterns. During the wet season, when fruit is abundant, it makes up the majority of their diet. In the dry season, when fruit becomes scarcer, they rely more heavily on insects and plant exudates. This dietary flexibility is key to their survival in environments with fluctuating resource availability. Researchers have also noticed interesting differences in foraging behavior between males and females, particularly when it comes to insect prey. Males tend to focus more on larger insects like katydids and cicadas, while females more often target smaller prey like ants and termites. This difference may be related to the higher protein needs of females during pregnancy and lactation. One particularly intriguing aspect of Geoffroy's tamarin foraging is their use of tools. While not as advanced as tool use seen in some other primates, researchers have observed tamarins using leaves as sponges to access water trapped in tree hollows. This simple but effective technique allows them to exploit water sources that would otherwise be inaccessible. In summary, recent research has revealed Geoffroy's tamarins to be remarkably adaptable and resourceful foragers. Their diverse diet, efficient foraging strategies, and ability to exploit unique food sources like plant exudates all contribute to their success in their forest habitats. Understanding these feeding patterns not only provides insights into Geoffroy's tamarin ecology, but also highlights the complex relationships between primates and their forest environments. Part 4. Communication and Interaction. Communication plays a vital role in the social lives of primates, and Geoffroy's tamarins are no exception. Recent research has uncovered a rich repertoire of vocalizations, visual signals, and chemical communication used by these small monkeys. Let's explore the fascinating ways Geoffroy's tamarins interact with each other and their environment. One of the most striking aspects of Geoffroy's tamarin communication is their vocal repertoire. Despite their small size, these monkeys have a wide range of vocalizations, each serving different functions. Researchers have identified several distinct call types. 1. Long calls. These loud, far-carrying calls are used for intergroup communication and territorial defense. They're often given in a coordinated fashion by multiple group members, creating an impressive, vocal battle when two groups meet at territory boundaries. 2. Alarm calls. Geoffroy's tamarins have specific vocalizations to alert group members to different types of threats. For example, they use distinct calls for aerial predators, like raptors, versus terrestrial threats. 3. Contact calls. These softer, shorter calls help group members maintain contact while moving through dense vegetation. They're especially important for coordinating group movements during foraging. 4. Infant calls. Newborns and young tamarins have their own set of vocalizations, including distress calls that quickly attract the attention of caregivers. 5. Food calls. When an individual discovers a rich food source, they may give a specific call that attracts other group members to share the find. What's particularly fascinating is how these vocalizations can be combined and modified. Researchers have observed Geoffroy's tamarins altering the pitch, duration, and sequence of their calls to convey different levels of urgency or excitement. This suggests a level of vocal flexibility that's quite advanced for such a small primate. Beyond vocalizations, Geoffroy's tamarins also rely heavily on visual communication. They have a range of facial expressions and body postures that convey different emotional states and intentions. For example, a wide open mouth with teeth exposed is a threat display. Rapid tail movements can indicate agitation or excitement. Piloerection, raising of body hair, is often used in aggressive encounters. One particularly interesting visual signal is the head cocking behavior observed during social interactions. A tamarin will tilt its head to one side, exposing the white fur on its throat. This seems to be a friendly gesture, often used during grooming sessions or when approaching infants. Chemical communication also plays a crucial role in Geoffroy's tamarin society. Like many primates, they have scent glands that they use for marking their territory and communicating with group members. The most prominent of these are the anogenital scent glands, which are used in a behavior known as scent marking. Scent marking serves several important functions. 1. Territory defense. By leaving their scent on branches and other surfaces, tamarins can signal their presence to neighboring groups. 2. Reproductive signaling. Changes in an individual's scent can indicate their reproductive status, which is particularly important given the reproductive suppression that occurs in tamarin groups. 3. Individual recognition. Each tamarin has a unique scent profile, allowing group members to recognize each other even when visual cues aren't available. 4. Stress indication. Recent research has suggested that changes in an individual's scent can indicate their stress levels, potentially allowing group members to respond appropriately. One fascinating discovery is the role of scent in infant care. Researchers have found that fathers and other alloparents can distinguish between the scents of related and unrelated infants, which may influence their willingness to provide care. Geoffroy's tamarins also engage in a behavior known as overmarking, where one individual places their scent mark directly over another's. This seems to be particularly common among males and may play a role in competition for mates. Another interesting aspect of Geoffroy's tamarin communication is their use of multimodal signals, combinations of vocal, visual, and olfactory cues. For example, during territorial disputes, tamarins might combine loud vocalizations with visual displays and increased scent marking. This multimodal communication may help reinforce the message and ensure it's received in dense forest environments. Researchers have also observed fascinating patterns in how Geoffroy's tamarins learn and modify their communication behaviors. Young tamarins seem to go through a period of vocal learning, where they practice and refine their calls. This suggests a degree of vocal plasticity that's relatively rare among non-human primates. Interestingly, there's evidence of regional dialects in Geoffroy's tamarin vocalizations. Groups in different areas may have slightly different versions of the same basic calls. This could potentially allow tamarins to distinguish between neighbors and strangers, which would be useful in territorial defense. One particularly intriguing area of recent research is the study of Geoffroy's tamarin cognitive abilities as they relate to communication. For example, playback experiments have shown that these monkeys can distinguish between the calls of different individuals and respond appropriately based on their relationship with the caller. There's also evidence that Geoffroy's tamarins can engage in simple forms of referential communication, that is, using specific signals to refer to objects or events in their environment. This is most clearly seen in their alarm calls, where different call types consistently refer to different types of threats. Researchers have even found evidence of what might be called conversation among Geoffroy's tamarins. When one individual gives a contact call, others often respond with their own calls in a back-and-forth pattern. This turn-taking behavior is reminiscent of human conversation and may play a crucial role in maintaining group cohesion. Another fascinating aspect of Geoffroy's tamarin communication is their apparent ability to eavesdrop on the calls of other species. They've been observed responding appropriately to the alarm calls of birds and even to the sounds made by predators themselves. This ability to extract information from the broader acoustic environment likely contributes significantly to their survival in complex forest ecosystems. In conclusion, recent research has revealed Geoffroy's tamarins to be sophisticated communicators, using a complex blend of vocal, visual, and chemical signals to navigate their social and ecological environments. From their diverse vocal repertoire to their nuanced use of scent marking, these small primates display communication abilities that rival those of much larger species. Understanding these communication systems not only provides insights into Geoffroy's tamarin behavior and ecology, but also offers valuable perspectives on the evolution of communication in primates more broadly. Part 5. Impacts of habitat fragmentation. As human activities continue to alter natural landscapes, many species face the challenge of surviving in fragmented habitats. Geoffroy's tamarins, with their specific habitat requirements and social structure, are particularly vulnerable to these changes. Recent research has shed light on how habitat fragmentation affects these small primates, revealing both their resilience and the threats they face. Habitat fragmentation occurs when large, continuous areas of habitat are divided into smaller, isolated patches. For Geoffroy's tamarins, this often means that their forest home is broken up by roads, agricultural fields, or urban development. This fragmentation can have profound effects on tamarin populations. 1. Reduced resource availability. Smaller habitat patches may not contain all the resources tamarins need, such as specific food plants or suitable sleeping sites. 2. Restricted movement. Tamarins may be unable or unwilling to cross open areas between forest fragments, limiting their ability to disperse or find mates. 3. Increased edge effects. Forest edges are subject to different microclimates and increased predation pressure, which can negatively impact tamarins. 4. Genetic isolation. When populations are cut off from each other, genetic diversity can decrease, potentially leading to inbreeding depression. Recent studies have shown that Geoffroy's tamarins can persist in surprisingly small forest fragments, some as small as 1 to 2 hectares. However, their behavior and ecology often change dramatically in these constrained environments. One of the most noticeable effects is on group size and composition. In continuous forest, Geoffroy's tamarin groups typically contain 3 to 9 individuals. But in highly fragmented landscapes, researchers have observed much larger groups, sometimes exceeding 13 individuals. This may be a response to limited dispersal opportunities. Young tamarins that would normally leave to join other groups or establish their own territories are forced to remain with their natal group. These larger group sizes can lead to increased social stress and competition for resources. Researchers have observed higher rates of aggression in tamarin groups living in forest fragments, particularly during the dry season when resources are scarcer. Habitat fragmentation also affects Geoffroy's tamarin movement patterns. In continuous forest, groups typically range over areas of 7 to 10 hectares. But in fragmented landscapes, they may be confined to much smaller areas. This restricted movement can lead to overexploitation of local resources and increased competition with neighboring groups. Interestingly, some studies have found that Geoffroy's tamarins in fragmented habitats spend more time on the ground than those in continuous forest. This behavioral change may be an adaptation to the need to cross open areas between forest patches. However, it also exposes them to new threats, such as predation by domestic dogs or cats. The diet of Geoffroy's tamarins can also be significantly impacted by habitat fragmentation. In continuous forest, they have a diverse diet including a wide variety of fruits, insects, and plant exudates. But in small forest fragments, their dietary diversity often decreases. They may become more reliant on a few abundant food sources, which can lead to nutritional imbalances. One particularly concerning effect of habitat fragmentation is its impact on Geoffroy's tamarin reproductive success. Studies have shown that groups in small, isolated forest fragments often have lower birth rates and higher infant mortality than those in larger, more connected habitats. This may be due to a combination of factors, including increased stress, reduced resource availability, and limited genetic diversity. However, it's not all bad news. Researchers have also observed some remarkable adaptations by Geoffroy's tamarins to fragmented landscapes. 1. Use of secondary vegetation. Tamarins have been observed making extensive use of secondary growth and even non-native plant species in disturbed areas. 2. Matrix tolerance. Some groups have shown a surprising willingness to use non-forest, matrix, habitats, like shade-grown coffee plantations, to move between forest fragments. 3. Behavioral flexibility. Tamarins in fragmented habitats often show changes in activity patterns, foraging strategies, and social behavior that help them cope with their altered environment. These adaptations suggest that Geoffroy's tamarins have some capacity to persist in human-modified landscapes, given appropriate conservation measures. One interesting area of recent research is the role of corridors in mitigating the effects of habitat fragmentation. Studies have shown that even narrow strips of forest connecting larger patches can be crucial for maintaining gene flow between tamarin populations. These corridors don't need to be pristine forest. Even rows of trees along fence lines or streams can serve as important conduits for tamarin movement. Researchers have also been investigating the potential for reforestation to benefit Geoffroy's tamarins. Early results are promising, with tamarins observed using relatively young, 10 to 15-year-old, secondary forest for foraging and even sleeping. This suggests that strategic reforestation efforts could significantly expand available tamarin habitat in fragmented landscapes. Another important consideration is the edge effect in fragmented habitats. Forest edges experience different microclimatic conditions and often have different plant communities compared to forest interiors. Some studies have found that Geoffroy's tamarins actually prefer edge habitats in some contexts, possibly due to increased insect abundance or the presence of certain food plants. However, edges also come with increased risks, such as greater exposure to predators and human disturbance. The genetic consequences of habitat fragmentation are another crucial area of study. Research has shown that Geoffroy's tamarin populations in small, isolated forest fragments often have lower genetic diversity than those in larger, more connected habitats. This loss of genetic diversity can reduce a population's ability to adapt to environmental changes and increase its susceptibility to diseases. However, researchers have also found evidence of occasional long-distance dispersal events, where individual tamarins manage to move between seemingly isolated forest patches. These rare events can be crucial for maintaining genetic connectivity across fragmented landscapes. One particularly interesting finding is the role of human-created linear features like power line clearings in Geoffroy's tamarin movement. While these clearings fragment the forest, some studies have found that tamarins will use the vegetation along their edges as travel routes between forest patches. This highlights the complex and sometimes counterintuitive ways that human modifications can affect wildlife behavior. Researchers have also been studying how habitat fragmentation affects Geoffroy's tamarin interactions with other species. In some cases, fragmentation can increase competition with other primate species that are more tolerant of disturbed habitats. In other cases, it may alter predator-prey dynamics, potentially exposing tamarins to new threats. In conclusion, recent research has revealed that habitat fragmentation poses significant challenges for Geoffroy's tamarins, affecting everything from their social structure to their diet and reproductive success. However, these studies have also highlighted the remarkable adaptability of these small primates. By understanding how Geoffroy's tamarins respond to habitat fragmentation, researchers and conservationists can develop more effective strategies for protecting these fascinating monkeys in an increasingly human-dominated landscape. Part 6. Conservation Efforts. As we've seen throughout this video, Geoffroy's tamarins face numerous challenges in their rapidly changing world. However, dedicated researchers, conservationists, and local communities are working hard to ensure a future for these charismatic little monkeys. In this final section, we'll explore some of the conservation efforts aimed at protecting Geoffroy's tamarins and their forest homes. Conservation efforts for Geoffroy's tamarins operate on multiple levels, from broad policy initiatives to local, community-based projects. Let's start by looking at some of the larger-scale conservation strategies. Protected areas. One of the most important tools for Geoffroy's tamarin conservation is the establishment and maintenance of protected areas. Several national parks and reserves in Panama and Colombia provide crucial habitat for these monkeys. For example, Soberania National Park in Panama is home to a significant population of Geoffroy's tamarins and has been the site of much important research on the species. However, recent studies have shown that protected areas alone are not sufficient. Many tamarin populations exist outside of formally protected areas, often in small forest fragments on private land. This has led to increased focus on conservation strategies that work across the entire landscape, including both protected and unprotected areas. Corridor creation. Given what we've learned about the impacts of habitat fragmentation, creating and maintaining forest corridors has become a key conservation strategy. These corridors can take many forms, from formal biological corridors established by governments to informal networks of hedgerows and riparian forests on private lands. One interesting project has been working with coffee farmers to maintain shade trees in their plantations, creating a more hospitable matrix that tamarins can use to move between forest patches. This not only benefits the tamarins but can also provide ecosystem services to the farmers, such as pest control and soil conservation. Reforestation. Active reforestation efforts are another important component of Geoffroy's tamarin conservation. These projects not only create new habitat but can also help connect isolated forest fragments. Researchers have found that Geoffroy's tamarins can begin using reforested areas within 10 to 15 years, much faster than many larger primate species. Some innovative projects are combining reforestation with sustainable agriculture. For example, agroforestry systems that incorporate native fruit trees can provide both income for local communities and food resources for tamarins. Legal protection. Both Panama and Colombia have laws protecting Geoffroy's tamarins and prohibiting their capture or trade. However, enforcement of these laws can be challenging, particularly in remote areas. Recent efforts have focused on strengthening enforcement capabilities and increasing penalties for wildlife trafficking. International cooperation is also crucial, as Geoffroy's tamarins are sometimes smuggled across borders for the illegal pet trade. Organizations like CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, play an important role in coordinating international efforts to combat this trade. Research and monitoring. Ongoing scientific research is vital for effective conservation. Long-term studies of Geoffroy's tamarin populations provide crucial data on population trends, habitat use, and responses to environmental changes. This information helps conservationists adapt their strategies as conditions change. One particularly exciting development has been the use of new technologies in tamarin research and monitoring. For example, 1. GPS collars have allowed researchers to track tamarin movements with unprecedented precision, providing valuable data on habitat use and dispersal patterns. 2. Camera traps are being used to monitor tamarin populations in remote areas, providing insights into group composition and behavior without the need for direct observation. 3. Genetic techniques are helping researchers understand population connectivity and identify priority areas for conservation. Community-based conservation. Perhaps some of the most promising conservation efforts for Geoffroy's tamarins are those that directly involve local communities. These projects recognize that effective conservation must address human needs as well as wildlife protection. One successful model has been the development of community-managed forests. In these projects, local communities are given rights to manage forest areas, often in exchange for commitments to sustainable use and conservation. This approach not only protects tamarin habitat but also provides economic benefits to local people through sustainable resource extraction and ecotourism. Speaking of ecotourism, several projects have been working to develop Geoffroy's tamarin-focused wildlife viewing opportunities. While not as well known as some other primate species, these charismatic little monkeys can be a draw for wildlife enthusiasts. When well managed, ecotourism can provide economic incentives for forest conservation and raise awareness about tamarin conservation. Education and outreach. Raising awareness about Geoffroy's tamarins and their conservation needs is crucial. Many projects include strong education components, working with local schools and communities to foster appreciation for these monkeys and their forest homes. Some innovative outreach efforts have used Geoffroy's tamarins as flagship species to promote broader forest conservation. For example, one project in Panama has created a tamarin-themed environmental education program that teaches children about forest ecology and conservation. Ex situ conservation. While the primary focus is on protecting Geoffroy's tamarins in their natural habitat, zoos and wildlife centers also play an important role in conservation efforts. Captive breeding programs serve as a genetic backup for wild populations and provide opportunities for research that would be difficult or impossible in the wild. Moreover, Geoffroy's tamarins in zoos serve as ambassadors for their species, helping to educate the public about these little-known primates and the challenges they face in the wild. Policy advocacy. Conservation organizations are working to influence policy at local, national, and international levels to benefit Geoffroy's tamarins and their forest habitats. This includes advocating for stronger protected area networks, more stringent environmental regulations, and increased funding for conservation efforts. One important area of focus has been promoting more sustainable agricultural practices. Given that much of the threat to tamarin habitat comes from agricultural expansion, finding ways to increase agricultural productivity on existing farmland can help reduce pressure on forests. Innovative funding mechanisms. Conservation efforts require sustained funding, and several innovative approaches are being explored. For example, 1. Carbon offset projects that protect tamarin habitat while also addressing climate change. 2. Payment for ecosystem services schemes that compensate landowners for maintaining forest cover. 3. Conservation trust funds that provide long-term, stable funding for protected areas and community conservation projects. Addressing climate change. While not specific to Geoffroy's tamarins, efforts to mitigate and adapt to climate change are crucial for the long-term survival of the species. Climate change is expected to alter rainfall patterns and temperature regimes in tamarin habitats, potentially affecting food availability and forest composition. Conservation planning is increasingly incorporating climate change projections, identifying potential refuge areas and planning corridors that will allow tamarins to shift their ranges as conditions change. Tackling the pet trade. Despite being illegal, the capture of Geoffroy's tamarins for the pet trade remains a threat in some areas. Conservation efforts are addressing this through a combination of increased law enforcement, public education campaigns to reduce demand, and programs to rehabilitate and release confiscated tamarins. Disease management. As human activities bring tamarins into closer contact with people and domestic animals, disease transmission has become a growing concern. Conservation programs are working to monitor disease in tamarin populations and develop strategies to minimize transmission risks. Habitat restoration. Beyond just protecting existing habitat, some projects are actively working to restore degraded areas. This can involve removing invasive species, replanting native vegetation, and even reintroducing tamarins to areas where they've been extirpated. Sustainable livelihoods. Many conservation projects are incorporating sustainable livelihood components to provide alternatives to activities that degrade tamarin habitat. This might include developing markets for sustainably harvested non-timber forest products, promoting eco-friendly agriculture, or training local community members as wildlife guides. In conclusion, conservation efforts for Geoffroy's tamarins are diverse and multifaceted, reflecting the complex challenges these small primates face. From large-scale habitat protection to community-based initiatives, from cutting-edge research to innovative funding mechanisms, dedicated individuals and organizations are working tirelessly to secure a future for these fascinating monkeys. While the challenges are significant, there's reason for hope. With continued effort and support, we can ensure that Geoffroy's tamarins continue to thrive in the forests of Panama and Colombia for generations to come. As we wrap up our exploration of recent research on Geoffroy's tamarins, let's take a moment to reflect on some key takeaways and consider the broader implications of what we've learned. First and foremost, our journey through the world of Geoffroy's tamarins has revealed these small primates to be remarkably complex and adaptable creatures. From their sophisticated social structures to their diverse communication systems, from their flexible foraging strategies to their resilience in the face of habitat fragmentation, Geoffroy's tamarins have repeatedly surprised researchers with their capabilities. One of the most striking themes that emerged across multiple areas of research was the importance of cooperation in Geoffroy's tamarin societies. Whether it's in infant care, foraging, or predator defense, these monkeys rely heavily on working together. This cooperative lifestyle likely plays a crucial role in allowing such small primates to thrive in challenging forest environments. Another key takeaway is the profound impact that habitat fragmentation is having on Geoffroy's tamarin populations. While these monkeys have shown a surprising ability to persist in small forest fragments, the changes in their behavior, ecology, and genetics highlight the urgent need for landscape-scale conservation approaches that go beyond just protected areas. The research we've explored also underscores the intricate connections between Geoffroy's tamarins and their forest ecosystems. As seed dispersers and insect predators, these small monkeys play important roles in maintaining forest health. This reminds us that conserving species like Geoffroy's tamarins isn't just about saving charismatic animals, it's about preserving the complex web of interactions that keep ecosystems functioning. From a broader perspective, the studies we've discussed offer valuable insights into primate behavior and ecology more generally. Geoffroy's tamarins, with their unique reproductive strategy and social system, provide an interesting contrast to better-known primate species. By studying these less familiar monkeys, researchers can gain new perspectives on the diversity of primate adaptations and the evolutionary forces that shape them. Moreover, the conservation challenges facing Geoffroy's tamarins are, in many ways, emblematic of the threats facing biodiversity worldwide. Habitat loss, fragmentation, climate change, and human-wildlife conflict are issues that countless species are grappling with. By developing and testing conservation strategies for Geoffroy's tamarins, researchers and conservationists are generating knowledge and approaches that can be applied more broadly. Looking to the future, the research on Geoffroy's tamarins points to several promising avenues for further study. 1. How will climate change affect Geoffroy's tamarin populations, and what conservation strategies can help them adapt? 2. Can new technologies, like environmental DNA sampling or automated bioacoustic monitoring, improve our ability to study and protect these elusive primates? 3. How do Geoffroy's tamarins' cognitive abilities compare to those of other primates, and what can this tell us about the evolution of intelligence? 4. What role can Geoffroy's tamarins play as indicator species for overall forest health? These questions and many others ensure that Geoffroy's tamarins will continue to be a fascinating subject of research for years to come. As we conclude, I want to emphasize that while scientific research is crucial, effective conservation also requires the involvement of local communities, policymakers, and the broader public. Each of us can play a role in protecting species like Geoffroy's tamarins, whether it's through supporting conservation organizations, making sustainable consumer choices, or simply spreading awareness about these remarkable little monkeys. I hope this exploration of Geoffroy's tamarin research has sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to learn more about primate conservation. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to support more content like this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What aspects of Geoffroy's tamarin biology did you find most interesting? What other species would you like to see covered in future videos? Thank you for joining me on this journey through the fascinating world of Geoffroy's tamarins. Remember, every species, no matter how small, has a story to tell and a role to play in our planet's incredible biodiversity. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the wonders of the natural world.